Sport writers like to get to know a sporting personality. However, there has to be a care that journalists don't get too close to a subject that it affects their ability to report fairly and accurately on that subject. However, the relationship between reporters and players are now conducted through staged press conferences and copy-controlled interviews. Players can no longer confide their problems to sympathetic ears, and writers are no longer privy to the stresses of the professional game. So does White feel journalists can become too close to their personality?
Can be that issue. A very simple issue would be if a journalist was brought in to ghostwrite a personality's autobiography, they'd then be loath ever to be critical of them. I think a distance is really necessary. But I think some of the more sophisticated money-making operations in the game are making it harder and harder to be objective. Manchester United, for instance, are very good at banning outlets who are critical of them. That's always happened through the ages, but they're becoming much more adept at it, which means that in order to ensure that the outlet still has access to the biggest story around, the critique is submerged. Yeah, I think that definitely can happen.
Can some sports journals? You ghostwrote the book for Steven Gerrard. Can you get too close to a subject, which makes your reports not totally fair and accurate?
I think that is an issue. It's something you are aware of, but there's a balance there. If Steven Gerrard has done a bad tackle on the pitch, I will criticise him and point that out, and he would expect that. And sometimes, if it's known that you are, well, not necessarily close, but I think if you do criticise someone that you are known to like and admire and have worked with on books or whatever, in a way that carries more weight, because people are saying, well, hang on a sec, this is a guy who should really be out beating the drum for an individual because they've worked together in the past and they're supposed to be friends, and yet he's actually saying, look, what this player did is wrong. I've criticised Gerrard on occasions, he's not delivered for England, certain tackles and things like that.
With more forms of media providing coverage of sport, such as rolling sport news channels, podcasts, and of course the internet, this gives an opportunity for more analysts on sport. However, there seems to be a whole host of ex-pros who provide very little insight and appear incredibly uncomfortable when speaking. It would appear these ex-pros are given a chance purely because of their name. This filters out the opportunity for professional sport journalists to be given the chance to share their usually more insightful views on a larger scale, other than newspapers. Programmes such as Match of the Day and Sky's Soccer Saturday have still yet to include journalists as their panellists or pundits. The internet provides so many the opportunity to report on the matches and events, and with everyone who posts on a forum or a blog thinking they're a football expert, this means there is extra pressure on sport writers to produce intelligent, well-researched and brilliantly phrased insights into their stories. This goes to show what an impressive job sport writers do if they still constantly sell newspapers and get hits on newspaper websites from readers wanting to read their stories and reports, despite the amount of viewpoints provided from other football fans on the net. Jim White believes they should be given the chance to air their views on a bigger platform.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. Some ex-players go into the media and do a fantastically good job. Brian Moore, Mike Atherton, Derek Pringle, they're really, really good operators, and no one can deny that they bring an extra thing to the party. I sometimes look at some of the pundits on Gillette Soccer Saturday and I wonder what exactly they're doing. They're completely inarticulate, they can't string two words together, and they're not really giving you any insight at all.
Do you think there's too many ex-pros in the media side of the game?
Yes, I do. Again, it's another side of the game. I think columnists slightly different to the actual day-to-day reporters. I think there's a space for columnists if they're good. I don't think there's any point having a columnist if you're just trading in the name and they're being very blind. If somebody's going to actually tell you something that you didn't already know, then I think that's interesting. If they're going to give you an insight into what goes on in football, yeah, that's interesting.
The bulk of sport news quotation is chronically dull. This is the stuff of the classic armchair fan who doesn't care about sport and uses daily football news as chat around the office. There is more written about football every single day in the country's press than on any other topic. With our news organisations on the brink of one of the biggest changes in its history, the focus turns to online. An internet news story needs only to be as long or as short as necessary. There's no need to match the story to the page space which has been allocated to fill, and there's no need to fill a minimum or maximum number of pages each day. And as such, news becomes less reliant on the quotation to act as padding. The development of club-specific pages means that news can be placed where it is available to those who want it, but not inflicted upon those who don't. So what do Henry Winter and Alan Nixon foresee for the future of the industry? Are you optimistic for the future of sport writing?
Oh, 100%. You look at the game, the Times is a very good publication on football on a Monday morning. I mean, that's outstanding. We'd not have had anything like that 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. So everyone says, newspapers are dying, but I've never known so much football in newspapers. So, and it's a fantastic wave, and anyone getting into it now is just loving surfing it.
And you alluded to earlier about how the internet's been good for you. Would you say that's good for sport journalism, the internet?
If it's properly handled, yeah, because any time you get a story, if you're working in a newspaper, you're handicapped by deadlines, because if you get a story 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, people aren't going to read that until 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock the next morning probably. That's about 12 hours. I think we will have an online evolving newspaper that breaks stories in the next 5 years. I'd love to be ahead of that game and actually start it myself, because, I mean, anybody who does it and does it right will have created something pretty significant.